Welcome back to Buddha Bites. I'm Iris Fairfax, and this is episode 21. If you're not a regular follower, I have some great news I'd like to share. Just recently, I was named a second prize winner in the Create TV Easy Peasy Cooking Challenge, and I'm so excited about that. I want to thank all of my loyal subscribers and most especially my family behind the scenes who make this all happen. So, today I am going back into my personal recipe archives to this yellowed recipe for white chocolate silk pie. Super easy. I've served it at many a party, and I'd like to share it with you, but with the warning that it's slightly controversial. So let's go into the kitchen and I'll tell you why. White chocolate silk pie. Already here's some of the controversy. Some people don't regard white chocolate as truly being chocolate. White chocolate has all of the other things that regular chocolate has, except it does not have cocoa solids. Instead of the cocoa solids, it has milk solids, which account for its creamy texture. So I'm going to call it white chocolate, and it comes in these bars. It either comes in bars or it sometimes comes in cubes. Now the recipe calls for 6 ounces. This is a 4-ounce package. Now what I will do is I will unwrap this. It's like a Wonka candy bar. And fortunately for us, there are indentations. So for 4 ounces, each one of these squares is a 1/2 ounce. So we'll just break these up. And I have 2 additional ounces from when I made one before. The beauty of the silkiness of white chocolate is that it's not going to take too long to melt. I fortunately have a microwave that has a chocolate setting, a setting for melting chocolate. So I'm just going to do the chocolate setting, and then it tells me to input the quantity by ounces, and this allows me to put in the 6 ounces and press start. So this recipe is absolutely a lesson in temperatures. The white chocolate is going to heat up, and then I'm going to have to bring it down, not to room temperature, but at least lukewarm, to where I can stick my finger in and it's still kind of warm, but that it won't melt the other components. So that is the first aspect. So we're going to melt this down and come back when it's melted. All right, the timer has gone off, and we're going to pull this out. You'll see that it doesn't really look like it was melted, but it most certainly is. It is quite hot. In fact, I sort of have asbestos hands, but this right hand is awfully hot, so I'm going to set this down to cool. And while I do, I'm going to pick up the next component, which is butter. This recipe calls for 1.5 cups of butter, softened. So 1/2 cup of butter, 1.5 cups of butter. So we now have a different temperature, and this is very important that we get the butter at just the right temperature. I'm going to lift this up, because if it is too hard, it takes too long to whip into submission, and if it's too soft, then the pie filling will be oily. So I just want to show you with this 3rd stick of butter the consistency that we're looking for. So what you want, now this has been sitting out for a little while under some lights, but you at least want that. You want it to be able to sort of hold the shape of an indentation with your finger. Not too much softer than that. So all of this will go in to the blender. I'm gonna lock this. And we're just going to get it creamed a little bit, which is really not going to take much effort because, as I say, it's at room temperature. We'll stop from time to time and scrape down the sides. It's mind-blowing how quickly this pie comes together. And you will notice that I'm using the balloon whisk. Ordinarily, say if you are making a cake, you might use the paddle attachment. But I like the balloon whisk because it whips a little bit more air into the butter. So it doesn't really take too much more than that. And then we will stop and add the rest of the ingredients. So, according to my old yellow recipe, this recipe calls for creme de coco. If you don't want to use alcohol, you can certainly use chocolate extract. You can find that at some baking supply stores, but I keep liquor around. Now, this recipe called for 3/4 of a teaspoon. I'm really not worried about that. And white chocolate needs a little bit of help because essentially white chocolate is just a whole lot of sweet and not a lot of flavor on its own. So I really think that you don't want the filling to be boozy per se, but I sort of I will splash things in a moment. And so I splashed sort of maybe a teaspoonful in, and I'm actually going to follow it up with yet another liqueur. I have had this bottle for a very long time, for several years, and I still have this much of it. It's banana liqueur. And eventually I'm going to top this pie with strawberries, and what goes better with strawberries than banana? So I'm going to put a little glug in there, maybe about a half a teaspoonful, kind of, sort of, and then drop this down, mix it a little bit more. And I will never do a sweet recipe, or almost never, without vanilla extract. Remember what we have talked about all these times, pure vanilla extract. I don't care what anybody tells you. Imitation vanilla is a new. I don't care. They actually said it on America's Test Kitchen, God love them. Or maybe it was Milk Street, I can't recall. But somebody said, oh, imitation, you can save some money and just use imitation. Not in my kitchen. So, let's look back at this consistency, and you'll see that it's nice and soft. Once you eat this pie, you really want to get the feeling like, in essence, that you're eating a stick of butter. I know that sounds really decadent, but desserts are decadent. So, I'm just going to double check on the chocolate here and see how it's coming along. It's certainly cooler to the touch, but it's a little warmer than I would like. So we're going to let this cool down a little bit more. And because I am the cook, I'm not going to put my finger back in there. Don't worry about it. This is where we add a little bit of salt. Now the recipe says a pinch of table salt. I am going to use the old-fashioned table salt rather than kosher salt because it's an old recipe, and I can't imagine, I don't think back when I clipped that recipe that kosher salt was really a thing that people were using universally. This is maybe about a 1/4 of a teaspoon. And you may recall me saying that you will always want to put salt in a sweet thing. It balances out the sweetness, and it actually also boosts the sweetness of a dessert. So we're going to get this all combined, and when the white chocolate has come right down to just the right temperature, we're going to add that. So hang on. All right, so our white chocolate is sufficiently cool. It's a little lukewarm still, but it's not going to make the butter greasy. And if you think that I have not already put in enough sugar, there's a cup of sugar. Now, what I like to do is I like to take regular granulated sugar and burr it around in the food processor a little bit. It's not essential, but I like that it gives the filling a slightly smoother, less grainy texture. So it used to be that you could find superfine sugar in the grocery stores. I haven't been able to find superfine in the grocery stores in a long time, so that's why I did this in the food processor ahead of time. And I'm going to add 1 cup of my homemade superfine sugar and mix that up a little bit. It's going to give us a little bit more, it's going to give the filling a little bit more heft. As you see it looks like it's already getting thicker. It doesn't really need much time. And now, with the mixer on low, I'm going to do my best, left-hander though I am, to add our melted white chocolate. So, you may be asking, what the heck is so controversial? Okay, white chocolate, no big deal. We're not going to be having heated arguments about this. It's not that big, it's not that, not that big a deal. We're going to get to the next point of controversy in just a moment. This recipe takes eggs, raw eggs. Now that can be a point of contention. Certainly not everybody should be eating this dessert. Pregnant women, people with certain other health concerns should not be eating this dessert because these eggs will not cook. When I got these from the store yesterday, and I'm going to put them in one by one as much as they will let me, one by one, and we will beat a little bit between each one, and that's going to give us even more body. I got these eggs yesterday, and as soon as I got home, they went straight into the refrigerator, do not pass go. The point is that eating this dessert with raw eggs, you can mitigate the sort of danger of it all by making sure that the eggs are as fresh as you can possibly get. Keep them as cold as you possibly can. These just came out of the refrigerator right before we started filming. And also, like anything else that you eat, know where it's come from. Now, this time I have not used the Rolls-Royce eggs. These are not the super orange ones that I like to use. It's really not necessary. The eggs are not the star of the show. They are just a booster for all the other ingredients. But as I said, this is the reason why this is not going to be the dessert for everybody. But for those who can do it, like for those who eat a rare steak or a Pittsburgh steak. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but I would say that with the freshest of ingredients, you stand little to no chance of getting sick if you're using the best possible ingredients. Some people shouldn't eat it. Give them something else. Give them fresh fruit or something else. So let's look where this has landed. You see what the eggs have done? I'm going to actually open this up. And let's just mix it around a little bit. Look at this beautiful consistency. That is going to be our beautiful white chocolate silk pie filling. One of these days I think I want to do a milk chocolate silk pie. I've never done one in all these years, but this white chocolate, this is just, in fact, I'm going to have to give a little taste. Fools rush in. So, yum. Let's see. I'm saying yum and I haven't even tasted it yet. but yum. There's a little bit of a hit of salt that only enhances the sweetness of every other sweet thing. If I had not put the salt in, this would be cloyingly sweet. So we need the salt. So we're going to take our balloon attachment off. We are going to give one little stir because, you know, with these stand mixers, they're really fantastic, but they don't necessarily get it all. So you want to go in with your spatula and stir it a little bit. I'm going to take it off of the base. Move this back because we're finished with it. Wash my hands and then we will fill the pie shell. Hang tight. So, as far as crusts are concerned, you have some options. Some easier than others. The one that I already made today actually has a walnut crust. This, the nut company that we all are familiar with has come out with these crusts. Of course there are graham cracker crusts. This one is pecan, which is nice. Just to be aware, these nut crusts are not gluten-free. Be sure to look at your ingredients. I believe that wheat flour is like the second ingredient. So just because it says that it's a nut crust, it is not gluten-free. It's a great option and it's delicious. The last time that I made this pie, I actually used a shortbread crust that was similar to one of these. My brother-in-law thought it was too sweet. I actually liked it just fine, but it's kind of a nice option. It also gives a lovely consistency. So the one that's in the refrigerator right now is a walnut crust, which I chose to counterbalance the sweetness of the filling with the walnuts, which we know are sort of a little on the bitter side. But I also have been practicing making my pie crusts. So this one wasn't really too bad. It did shrink a tiny little bit, but I'm satisfied with the outcome. One of these days when I feel like I have mastered the pie crust, I'll be doing a video on that. But in the meantime, this is perfectly fine and ready to be filled. I did what you call blind baking it, which is baking the crust, obviously without any filling in it. I used beans. I had parchment paper and I put dry, beans. I've had the same beans for I think a couple of decades now that I use over and over again to weigh down the crust. I baked it for about 20 minutes, removed the parchment, removed the beans, poked some holes in the bottom of the crust. You can barely even see them now. And then continued to bake it for maybe about 5 minutes after that. And then it was done. So this recipe called for, and here I am with my lefty self again, called for a 10-inch pie shell. I believe this is 9, and I'm not so sure, but yeah, the commercial one is also a 9-inch shell. Guess what that leaves us with? Extra filling. I will show you what I'm going to be doing with that a little later, but in the meantime, I will fill this generously and use an offset spatula to spread our filling to the corners. It doesn't really have to be all that artistic because I am going to be topping this with strawberries, but at least you want sort of an even layer. Now this is going to go back into the refrigerator for 2 hours to set up. And after that 2-hour period, I will be decorating it. But as I mentioned before, I've already done one, so in a moment I will take that out and show you how at least I will be decorating it. So this is going in the refrigerator. See you in a second. And here we are with a white chocolate silk pie that has been chilling in the refrigerator for 2 hours. You will see that it is nice and firm to the touch, almost butter-like. And so we are ready to decorate this baby. I like to use strawberries. I just like the taste with white chocolate. You can use raspberries. Raspberries go really, really well with any type of chocolate, I think. I wouldn't use a topping that would overwhelm the white chocolate because it is a rather delicate flavor. So I have this wonderful little pincer thing. I every little once in a while I will go for these one-use gadgets, and this is what I use to hold my strawberries. You can also use a drinking straw, but if I can lay my hands on this, it's tremendously helpful. It gets the whole hull out. Sometimes I don't even have to take off the green, but I do. And I've already sliced up a number of these. This is simply what I did. I've just held it this way and made thin cuts. And I try to keep them in the same position like what we did with our pear tart, so that if we want to fan it out, we're fanning it out in the natural formation of the strawberry. So say, you really can do this any way you like. Even if all you wanted to do was to take strawberries and load them up like this, but I think this is quite a bit of strawberry to load up that way. So you try to take them according to size. For me, I'm just going to fan them out this way and go around. And some of them are not going to be as cooperative with you, but you can certainly fiddle around with them once they're on the pie. That's another reason why you want the pie to be set before you try to do this. And this is where you let your creative juices just flow along with the strawberry juice. And so I'm just going to back off of this and kind of give you an idea of where my brain is with this. And then I will continue to garnish our pie. So I'm going to neaten this up a little bit, but I'm just going to go around, and I will post a picture of this as the thumbnail. But in the meantime, let me finish this pie so that we can cut that thing and eat it. Isn't this a thing of beauty? And the strawberries are in season. They are so juicy that they kept slipping through my fingers as I tried to garnish. But look what I found. I found one little slice of strawberry that's in the shape of a heart. Isn't that adorable? The recipe said to include whipped cream. This does not need whipped cream. So I'm going to slice this thing off camera because the first slice is always the hardest. Please never judge a cook on the basis of the first slice, because most of the time that's for the cook to eat in the kitchen. So I'm going to slice it off camera, and then we're going to come back and taste it together. And here it is, the first slice. It came out pretty well. I did fiddle around with it a little bit, but look at this gorgeous pie. White chocolate silk. I am really looking forward to giving a little taste of this with the walnut crust. Let's see. I mean, I know how I'm going to feel about this, but for y'all, strawberry. It is so creamy. The name, of course, is white chocolate silk, and it is definitely silky in my mouth. And that walnut crust is really excellent, an excellent foil for the sweetness of everything else. And you do taste the hint of salt that balances it all out. I bet you thought I forgot about that extra filling, right? I did not. Because look at here. I'm gonna lift up this little present. You know, when you go to the store in the frozen food section, there are these desserts. You can find the phyllo dough, puff pastry, stuff like that. Well, these are the phyllo cups that you can get at most supermarkets. And so I took my pastry bag, I took a star tip, and I piped the extra filling in here and topped them with a raspberry or a blueberry, and you have little Buddha bitelets. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. So, super simple, easy recipe. Try it at home. If there is something that you'd like to see on Buddha Bites, please drop that in the comments. If you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe, share, comment, and come back again. So, this is Iris Fairfax from Buddha Bites, about to have another Buddha Bite. Thanking you for joining me again and urging you to remember that you are the Buddha. See you next time.